Hello, my name is Ben Falconer, and my report is about the elections to the Senate and the House of Representatives. These elections were happening at the same time as the presidential vote, and while the contest between Joe Biden and Donald Trump grabbed most of the headlines, the election of senators and congresspersons across the country was equally important. The United States Senate is the upper chamber of Congress. Congress is the body which passes laws in the US and is comparable to the UK Parliament. There are 100 senators, 2 from each state. A senator's term of office is 6 years, and 1/3 of the Senate is elected every 2 years. This year, in this election, 35 Senate seats were contested in 34 states, with both of Georgia's seats in contention. Going into the election, the Republican Party held a 6-seat majority. They had 53 senators to the Democrats' 47. The Democrats had hoped that a blue wave would sweep across the United States in the Senate elections, and that they could win a majority in the chamber. The House of Representatives is the lower house of Congress, and could be compared loosely with the British House of Commons. The House consists of 435 representatives, which are allocated to each state based on their population. Members of Congress are elected every 2 years, and these biennial elections take place at the same time as the presidential election and in the middle of a presidential term. These are called midterm elections. Each congressperson represents a congressional district, like an MP's constituency in this country. Before the election, the Democrats held a 35-seat majority, which they hope to increase at the ballot box this year. Initially, the Democrats hoped to win control of the Senate. To do this, they needed to defeat 4 incumbent Republicans, winning their seats and thus gaining a majority. The blue wave that they had hoped would sweep the country and that the polls had predicted failed to materialize. The Democrats have taken a single seat from the Republicans, with both parties tied on 48. A number of firsts have occurred at this election. Delaware Democrat Sarah McBride has become the first ever trans senator. In Maine, showed circled on the map, Democrats hope to unseat incumbent Republican Senator Susan Collins. The 67-year-old Collins staved off her Democratic challenger Sarah Gideon. Maine was called for Joe Biden relatively early on, and it has voted Democrat in every election since 1988. The northeastern United States is also known as deep Democratic territory, but despite this, a Republican senator has won re-election there. Susan Collins won 51.1% of the vote, and Gideon won 42.3%. The win for Collins, therefore, was fairly decisive. Georgia was unique because both of its Senate seats were contested in this year's election. This is because former Senator Johnny Isakson retired last year. In the regular election, Republican incumbent David Perdue faced a challenge from Democrat Jon Ossoff. In the special election for Isakson's old seat, Republican appointee Kelly Loeffler is defending against Democrat Reverend Raphael Warnock. Georgia state law requires a candidate to achieve at least 50% of the vote to be successful. This happened for neither candidate in neither election. This means that runoff elections will be held on the 5th of January. A runoff election is just a secondary election that is conducted when the first vote is inconclusive. In the House of Representatives, the Democrats went into the election with a healthy majority, which they hope to extend. However, they lost 4 incumbents and failed to flip any Republican districts. The Republicans instead gained 5 congressional districts. The Democrats appear to be on course to achieve a reduced majority, with 25 districts still to be called. 2 congressmen from New York have become the first gay black representatives elected to the House. Michigan, which is circled on the map, has 14 congressional districts. Each hexagon on the map stands for a congressperson's seat. 6 districts remained Republican in the state, while 7 remained Democrat. One district, which voted Democrat in the 2018 midterms, voted Republican this year, electing Congressman Peter Meijer. The presidential election has grabbed the vast majority of the headlines over the last week, but the Senate and the House elections are incredibly important. Divided government, which occurs when either the Senate or the House are dominated by a different party than the president, can make a president's term very difficult. This can give rise to so-called lame duck presidents who are limited in what they can do because their initiatives are persistently blocked by Congress. This happened in Obama's second term between 2012 and 2016 when the Republicans won control of the House of Representatives. This means that control of Congress is very important for a president if they want to succeed. Furthermore, ties are made possible in the Senate because it is made up of an even number of members. If 50 senators vote one way and the other 50 vote the other way, the vice president, who presides over the Senate, breaks the tie with their vote. There are still 4 Senate seats left to be decided, in North Carolina, Alaska, and 2 in Georgia. In both North Carolina and Alaska, the Republican candidates are ahead. If the Republican Party wins in these 2 states, but then both of Georgia's seats go Democrat, both parties will be tied 50-50. In this eventuality, a deadlock would be broken by the vote of Vice President-elect Kamala Harris, so the Democrats would have a de facto majority in the Senate. Much like the presidential election, the decisive Democratic victory many expected and that the polls predicted did not materialize for either the Senate or the House of Representatives. The Democrats look like they will hold on to their majority in the House, and their best hope for the Senate seems to be a tie in the election and the Vice President-elect Harris's deciding vote giving them an advantage over their rivals. Thank you very much for watching.